welcome all to my analysis about the first episode of Tower of God that just recently dropped on CrunchyRoll. This one will be a little long, so hold on tight, but let's break this stuff down. I want to preface by saying I love this episode and I'm happy that the series is animated, but I may seem a little nitpicky, just a fair warning. So this episode adapted from chapter 0 to chapter 6, maybe like 19 or so panels of chapter 6. So that's 537 total panels. That number does seem like a lot, and it is. But some of these panels were completely cut, and some new scenes and facial expressions were added in place of others. Now, this video will contain spoilers on spoilers on spoilers, so please go away if you don't read the webtoon and are pretty much caught up. I don't wanna just assume that you've read the webtoon and forgot about it. Don't watch the video. If you wanna just see me talking about the episode with no spoilers, check out my previous video. It's safe to watch for anime only. When I talk about these panel numbers, it's a rough estimate, and I only count the images, not the text bubbles, as panels. And there were a lot of text bubbles that weren't part of panels, especially in these 6 chapters. The goal of this video is to see what was actually cut, what was enhanced with additions, and what sort of potential impacts does this have for world building and storytelling for this series in the animated form. It's obvious that a lot of things have to be cut for an adaptation. You know, they only have so many episodes and time dedicated to adapt all of this season 1, which is 78 chapters, and I think we only get 13 episodes, so you know, stuff's gotta get cut. But this is less of a negative critique and more of what effects these cuts and changes have. Now let me know if you liked the panel and number breakdowns, or was it a little extra, and is this too ranty? Let me know in the comments below. Another thing, sorry, I know this intro is long. I'm live streaming on Twitch every Wednesday around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so come through if you want to chill and watch with me. Now let's begin. Chapter 0. It's about 7 total panels, and this chapter is more of a trailer or a promo for the series. And I mean, we see a lot of these same panels used in the trailers for the series, for the anime. The money grabbing girl, who was an anima, is pretty irrelevant to the entirety of the series, so it makes sense that she was removed from this promo and replaced with Shibusu or Lisu, which was a good move because he's definitely a fan favorite character and still has some relevance even in season 3 of the webtoon. The ordering of the phrases has been moved around. It may not actually match up with the right descriptions for these said characters that are in place now. Another fan favorite character, Androsi, was added, which was a good move. The money and riches line with Shibusu zipping up his tracksuit doesn't really work because we don't really know why he climbs the tower other than for someone, which Shibusu briefly mentions to Bomb when they first meet and is never really touched on since. Now maybe Shibusu is climbing for money and riches for this person, but I feel like Shibusu cares more than just some superficial things. Now all the other phrases fit pretty well with each of the characters shown afterwards. Honor and pride match with Hats and Kun, as Hats tries to strive to be an honorable swordsman, and Kun is pretty prideful and loyal to his friend Bomb. Power and influence matches Androsi because of her backstory we get in season 1 and how she strives for power, because that is what rules the world, or the tower. Once you get a taste of that power and influence, you can't ever go back. Revenge fits well with Anak because, well, she kind of gets her revenge at the end of the season against Ren. And our boy, Rock the Native One, of course, he transcends them all. And we get more of this last panel of Bomb with the Black March in the webtoon, and it's expanded to show the entire sequence when he faces the eel. And it adds a surprise factor of our main character dying so early. All in all, the prologue is done pretty well to encapsulate the essence of the webtoon so far, other than one small thing about Shibusu. So now chapter 1 is 33 panels, and it's all the pre-tower with Bomb chasing Rachel, and it ends with the door opening into the tower. The first 33 panels don't really have any issue with the animation. They killed it. I love the blue atmosphere that was added, and the expressions and movements of Rachel and Bomb was depicted so well. I think the hand was a really good addition because of the dichotomy that Bomb is an irregular, but he is still chosen to enter by the tower, and this is literally the tower pulling him in. 2 panels that were somewhat missed were when the door starts leaking light into the cave. In the webtoon, Rachel looks away from Bomb and then smiles as she's taken in. This is lost in the anime as Rachel continues to stare at Bomb throughout the entire sequence. So why is this quick takeaway by Rachel so important? Well, it's because without saying anything, she's actually letting go of Bomb by accepting the tower as her future, and that she doesn't really want to do anything or be a part of Bomb. Some of the dialogue was cut that could have overcame this panel, these 2 panels, when Rachel in the webtoon says that I'm sick of living in this dark world, which is a play on words implying that she's tired of Bomb, which literally means night, the darkness. But that dialogue was also not added. added into the anime. These deletions take away from the contextualization that Rachel doesn't really care about Bomb, and good foreshadowing for the end of the first season. The second half of the chapter, so the total of the first chapter again was 94 panels. So these first 33 was when Bomb actually chases Rachel. The rest of the panels from 34 to 94, which is 61 panels total, is when Bomb enters floor 1. Hidan talks about the tower and describes the first test, and the chapter ends with Bomb running towards it. So this is all still chapter 1. This second half of the chapter is when, again, Bomb enters the tower. The enhancement of the wall paintings look amazing and adds to the epicness of the story and journey that Bomb is about to take. The lighting and the mood is put to set up the bomb test. It's great. Hidan's globes are actually swirling and moving, and there's even hints of blue and green to kind of foreshadow the cage appearing by using the globe. I think it was a pretty good idea to have Hidan actually know Bomb's name, to imply that Rachel had already passed through, to cut out a lot of these introductions of Bomb to Hidan, because it's a little redundant in the webtoon, since Bomb has a similar introduction with Yuri in front of Hidan later. The way that Hidan says that Rachel can be found up there leads to Bomb to the understanding that she has passed this ball test, so Bomb needs to pass and, follow suit. The webtoon goes in a little different route, with some banter with Hidan about a scared little girl, but this anime direction allows Hidan to stay mysterious as he pulls the strings to get Bomb up the tower, which is the whole purpose of this administrator. The webtoon makes Bomb seem more hesitant and afraid after all the talk that Hidan goes to about the test and the eel, which adds good context because they tell us about the eel and that, it hasn't been fed in months and it's starving and ready to eat. I mean, the music in the anime adds to that intensity, and just Bomb's facial expression is enough to show his scaredness but determination. While this may feel a little choppy, the cuts here were made because of why anime does well for its own medium, to add expression without the need for so many words. Show, not tell, right? Also, the random cleaver that Bomb pulls out in that webtoon, I'm glad the anime just completely removes that, because no one has any idea where Bomb is hiding that thing, and he just makes it appear out of thin air and whips out his cleaver ready to fight. Like, where did he pull it out from? No one in the webtoon knew, so it's good that we didn't even have that confusion in the anime. So chapter 2 is our longest chapter that was adapted. Chapter 2 is it's about a total of 143 panels. The first 80 of them is all panels of Yuri and Evan climbing down the stairs and watching Bomb take his test. Now in the panels, all of these 80 panels are visually cut out, and it just cuts to Yuri kicking Bomb in the face, which is still savage as ever. Some of the dialogue gets injected back into the scenes when Yuri and Evan are with Bomb and Hidan, which is fine, but a small scene of Yuri just skipping down a dark staircase that's not well lit, looking forward to this new irregular to the tower, would add so much to her character as a lax and carefree individual that kind of does whatever she wants. Also, the scene in the webtoon shows that someone inside the tower predicted that an irregular would come and leak that info to Yuri, who obviously couldn't wait to take a peek at this new monster. Who told Yuri? What was their motive? These are the sort of questions that the webtoon brings up to add to the world building, and shows visually that there are other ways to get through these floors after you become a ranker or have a navigator/guide, of course. Yuri also adds to Hidan's characteristics by stating that Hidan doesn't like when irregulars arrive, which is quite the opposite, because Hidan was actually eager for Bomb to come through to the tower. Another cutout part that was a little significant is when Yuri calls out Hidan for forgetting to give Bomb a pocket, when Hidan's reason actually is that he didn't really forget, is that he wanted to give Evan a reason to actually come down to the floor, since Evan is the one that would carry an extra pocket. Yuri wouldn't carry an extra pocket. She doesn't care about that. In the anime, the foreign language scene was done quite well, but then Evan kind of just throws a pocket at Bomb. It was a little sudden. Bomb's inner thoughts are important, as in the webtoon he's confused as to what the heck is going on and why he can't hear these people, and then things are appearing and disappearing like the pocket, but his facial expressions in the anime show this confusion and awe pretty well. So I guess the extra dialogue isn't needed. It's just Evan whipping out his backpack and just chucking a ball at Bomb. Yeah, the part that they added where Yuri says in the anime that the pocket is our lifeline in this tower, that was a really good add-on. I can already see a flashback in season 2 of this anime when Bomb decides to leave his pocket so that Kun can find it and figure out that Bomb is actually still alive, and this would be golden and amazing foreshadowing. In a future episode, we can have Kun look at Bomb's pocket and say a quick small remark like, oh, this is a pretty high rank item, just like the Black March you have. And that's enough to set the stage for their reunion in the second season. The rest of this chapter in the webtoon is setting up Bomb to get ready to enter the cage where Yuri gives the Black March. Now, this is adapted quite well, as Bomb gets everything he needs, and Yuri and Evan's character movements and facial expressions shows everything we need to know. Evan getting cut out of frame over and over again still geeks. The touch they added to the Black March with the Jihad crest is a good addition because it makes it more obvious the power level and significance, especially when the Green April comes into play, because no one can mistaken these two weapons when they have the King's crest on them. It creates a really good sense of clarity moving forward because these weapons are unique and special and should be pretty easy to be identified, and the anime does a really good job of establishing that this early on in the first episode. Alright, chapter 3, it's 77 panels, and it was a great move to actually cut out Evan's explanation on how to beat this test and just show that Bomb was doing it and Evan going crazy that Bomb actually followed a path that Evan thought no one would follow. It makes Bomb more impressive by just looking at how Evan reacts to his crazy play, but when Evan talks about how no one would go down this path, and that's why Evan didn't tell Bomb and to not give Bomb false hope and let him die, you know, that kind of stuff adds a lot to Bomb's character that can't really be shown that well. So an inner monologue of this when Evan is holding back Yuri would be a great touch to show how amazing Bomb is. But by having this monologue, Evan yelling at Bomb to go ignite the Black March would be a little more impactful. Although they did do a justice in the anime because of how forward and active Evan is in the second half when he pushes Bomb to do something Yuri can't even do. I think it was a fine choice to have Hidon originally hold Yuri back from entering the test because it continues to establish Hidon as a more powerful being than Yuri. And Evan gets a chance to do his part to hold Yuri back again. At the end of this chapter, Hidon gets questioned by Yuri when the Black March doesn't pop the ball. And Hidon says, well, maybe it's just a really well played or well made ball. Now in the anime, the line is now, the test hasn't even begun yet. Although both in the end mean the same thing, as Bomb needs to ignite to actually complete the test, the meaning behind them is quite different. The test not beginning yet is more vague and doesn't really allude to anything other than, you gotta do more, kid. While the snarky comment about a really well built ball gets us confused and excited. What else do we need to do to this ball? Why isn't the Black March, an incredible weapon, still not able to take out this small little object? These kinds of questions and kind of add more thoughts to the viewer's head that logically guides them to the fact that the weapon needs to do more, which is ignition. So chapter 4 is a pretty long chapter as well. It's about 116 panels, but the anime actually takes the first 16 panels of chapter 5, that's a flashback of Bomb and Rachel, and expands on that, while Bomb tries to pop the ball by slamming the Black March into it 9 times. This is a really great segue instead of throwing the flashback in the beginning of a chapter in the webtoon, because it ties the desire to see Rachel again and what Rachel has done to Bomb as a role model while he fights for his life to complete this test and go up. I love how the Black March soul radiating from the needle actually pushes the eel away in the anime, and we see the speech where Bomb explains his desire to go up to the tower. It's not to climb the tower, but to find Rachel, and the crazy face that Yuri makes because of the sexism of the Black March as she looks for cute boys with cute faces. More. This expands even more from the first chapter about Rachel wanting to see the stars with this flashback, because it's good because they did cut out a good bit, but it shows Rachel drawing some ugly stars, but hey, you know, it matches Rachel, am I right? We see Bomb trying to flirt with for the first time in a flashback, and it clearly captures the emotions Bomb feels really well. I really wanted a panel of Evan saying, you know, when they come out of the flashback, and right before Evan actually says, hold up, like, I need to go tell this boy, like, you need to ignite this weapon, ask for her help. I really wanted the panel of Evan from the webtoon where he says that you can walk this path too, can you? Because it truly shows that Evan trusts in Bomb's abilities and what's to come. But again, forceful Evan with the expression of just yelling, do it, serves the same purpose. Although Hidon may seem to be more sinister in the webtoon by saying things like, nothing, I just granted his wish, the boy went up. In the anime, just that squint and glance at Yuri showcases that ulterior motive on its own, and Yuri just looks kind of annoyed but goes away, shows the conversation between them without using the words needed. The last 24 panels of this chapter 4 were not adapted, and it's a shame, it really is. In these panels that we never get in the anime, we see the interactions between Yuri and Evan more, and they actually establish an important point about Bomb while they're talking about themselves. Will the boy change as he climbs the tower, just like Evan and Yuri changed? The experiences and motives of people who climb are shaped and changed because the journey to the top, it affects people. And it kind of implies that Bomb will not change and strive to be the same person at his core, which is what this episode is about, who Bomb is, to follow Rachel to the ends of the tower. Well, in theory, this is true for the first season, but, anime onlys will find out soon enough. Another cutout part is Hidon actually asking someone what they would do, and that someone is Rachel, and this happens after Bomb goes up to the next floor. This is a big foreshadowing for the end of season 1, as this is what the deal is to get Rachel to be the center of the story. Although through the previous chapters, while Bomb is taking the test, there are two purple eyes that look on, or two purple lights that kind of look like purple eyes, and I still think that's Rachel watching the test as Bomb bravely does anything for her sake. Now, I don't really see these two lights as eyes in this anime episode, which again makes sense if they cut out the scene where Hidon actually references or refers to Rachel. Maybe they felt it was too big of a spoiler, but I'm not entirely sure. Also, apparently everyone knew that Hidon killed the eel. Hello? I've reread this series so many times, but I was still shocked that Hidon actually killed the eel when we saw it in the anime. Again, a beautiful shot of the pieces falling and the blood splattered on the wall as Hidon says, "I'm interested," because we are all interested. Chapter 5 is 96 panels, and again the first 16 roughly with that flashback, and this is the transition of the Black March. They added a little transition scene with the Black March and Bomb as they ascend to the next floor. In this chapter, Bomb wakes up and he's on floor 2, and in the webtoon he just kind of wakes up, and after the announcement he just starts booking it out of fear. The anime does a really excellent job of adding Bomb eating some wheat, because of course he would. It's the first time he's seen that thing. And the music by Kevin Penkin that builds the tension as Bomb starts running is an excellent move and paces the narrative along. I like how close to danger Bomb actually is, and he got with the ponytail guy, because the ponytail guy actually steps on Bomb and then gets pelted with arrows, and then the archer gets destroyed by the sniper, and we see how far and how much blood is splattered. Honestly, it just kind of made me laugh. It was depicted really well because that sense of closeness and danger wasn't really that depicted with the webtoon, so that was great. Sadly, we don't get too much of that inner monologue of Bomb's thoughts as we did in the webtoon. Well, I take some of that back, because we do get Bomb saying that he has to be one of the 200 survivors, but how he says he wants to survive was cut out. He survives by fighting, but that's the same effect that's kind of shown when he holds his needle out, so it's not too bad. We lose some of Kuhn's intro, but a good bit of it is still retained because it kind of shows how much of a badass Kuhn is. But the important line of "I will not be ruled, I make my own rules," that's the mindset of a ruler. So that line by Kuhn was not there to show how much he craves and demands honor and control. Just like the prologue showed in the beginning of the series, in the beginning of this episode. The walkaway where Kuhn says, "Is there anyone worth going up the tower with?" is powerful and cocky, which is why a lot of people love him. But it works really well for the ending of a chapter. Since Kuhn in this episode isn't at the end, there's still some scenes with Rock going on, you can't really use that line because he kind of just shows up pretty soon after. But what we lose in that is the connection that most readers make that Bomb is the one worthy to climb the tower with Kuhn and Rock, of course. Chapter 6, it's half of the chapter is kind of adapted. We get 65 panels where Rock is introduced. We see Rock's silhouette flowing into the wind, and it was perfect. And although we don't get much dialogue between Rock and the sniper's not really that important, so it doesn't really matter. And we also cut out a lot of the downtime between Kuhn and Bomb before Rock joins the fray, which is fine because this entire couple of minutes in the anime is full of action and fast pacing, so that downtime would actually feel off. So that's the end of my rant. Analysis. Again, I want to point out, I don't hate the choices that the directors made for this episode, because it's hard to choose what needs to be taken out and what needs to be added to make the story whole. Just my thoughts on this episode. That's all for this video. If you get a chance, subscribe to get access to these reviews every week. My social media can be found by searching Inspirational on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Shout out to my designer. You can find his work on Instagram at JadenV_photography. Shout out to my editor. You can find him on Twitter at YoungObesity. See you all next time.